so that takes us to the Star Citizen discussion topic. Let's pull up the Star Citizen roadmap release view for you guys to take a look at here. So 3.14 was hyped in the community as the ORISON CRUSADER patch, but I think that historically we'll look back on it as much more of a big combat rebalance patch that evened out a lot of the various factors and set the stage for turning combat into a much more balanced game loop. Additionally, and maybe even more importantly, with the additional power given to turrets, missile operator mode, power management, and various other aspects of flight and combat controls, this is a patch where multi-crew has ascended to actually being the powerful force multiplier that it was always intended to be and needs to be in order for the ecosystem of Star Citizen playstyles to be properly balanced to offer incentives to multi-crew. Additionally, while 3.15 is being touted as the medical patch, I believe that looking closer at the various aspects of play, much better way to look at it would be to say that this is the survivability tier 1 patch. Medical gameplay and the beginning of Death of a Spaceman are just one aspect that, when taken in conjunction with physicalized inventory, dynamic loot generation in situ, the necessity to keep track of what assets are kept where, and later, as the systems continue to evolve, we have hints such as the offhanded comment made by a dev in the ISC where they discuss the upcoming physical hangars and loading, where he said, next year is going to be really about redefining and beefing up the economy. In addition, it's been noticed that some of the preliminary steps for server meshing have already been added to the game. Some people have crashed to a 30K, then loaded back into the game at their last location with their cargo and ship still intact. This isn't something that everyone's had experience, but people have had it happen here and there, and they've taken to Spectrum to go to the forums and say like, hey, what's going on with this? How come I pop back up with my stuff still? That's weird. And when questioning this on Spectrum, they've been responded to by CIG indicating that yes, in 3.14, some preliminary aspects of server meshing were added for testing and work, sort of a stealth add. And these factors, taken in conjunction, all together indicate to me that Star Citizen is now moving to a different phase of development where, you know, for so long they were first building the company. And then they had to build the, you know, once they built the company, they had to build the tools. And now, you know, they were building the tools to allow them to build the completed game loops. Now they're getting to the point where sort of the tools are more and more falling into place and they're actually focusing on the game loops. And we're now moving into sort of phase 3 where the actual game loops are starting to firm up. The goal then would logically be to complete the rough versions of all of these game loops, then do a second pass to polish those loops or features. Once this is complete, then they just need to go back through each feature to sort of fill it out with polished content. So in short, I'm positing that we are now seeing in sort of end of 2021 to mid 2022, maybe end of 2022, the Star Citizen project is making a major shift towards being a much more playable now game and shedding many of the remaining vestiges of its earlier sort of tech demo phase. And I'd really like to get sort of, I feel like this is the kind of thing that sneaks up on you and you don't see it when you're in it. You know, you don't see the forest for the trees. But I think we're going to look back on end of 2021 and mid to all of 2022 as that time when Star Citizen rounds the corner from this is exciting and it's a pretty picture generator and it's also frustrating as all shit to, hey, wow, this is becoming much more a real, playable, enjoyable game that I can have fun with now, and they're going to add even more beautiful stuff in the future. And a big chunk of this ties in with the whole server meshing thing that is actually just starting to happen. But I feel like we're about to, over the next 6 to 18 months, it's happening. And I'm super fucking excited. Let's go around the horn and get everybody's contribution in this. Let's start with Roy.
Yeah, so when you mentioned the multi-crew really starting to come into its own, what I thought of is, and I think this is for people coming over from Elite, maybe one of the biggest differences in the philosophy of how the game is balanced, and it can also lead to the whole concept around whether it's pay to win or not, is that in Elite we've kind of been spoiled by being able to solo fly ships like the Corvette and the Anaconda, and those equivalents in Star Citizen, not only do they need a crew, but they're very, very diminished if you try to fly them solo. Some of them it's useless if you try to fly them solo in a combat sense, and that's I think something that I started playing in 3.13, and of course I was playing the starter ships and the fighters and things like that, and had a few chances to try out and play in the multi-crew ships, and it really didn't dawn on me until I played it for a bit, and now with the changes that are coming in 3.14, and they've changed some of the balancing, that it's a big deal that you can't just go buy a big ship and be powerful. You've got to have a crew. You got to have friends to play with, and from the community to make it really get to its full potential. So it occurred to me that's a thing that if you're coming to this game straight from Elite, to be aware of, and I do think it kind of tamps down the whole argument about someone went and bought a big ship and now they're advantaged over me. Well, really only if they've got a bunch of people they play with all the time, and that you can go do that too, or be a part of a crew like that. So, Katie, you got some thoughts on this?
I absolutely do. So what you just said then is completely true. That the argument of pay to win. Well, you in a way, yeah, but like you said, a hammerhead is an outstanding military vessel, and if you've got the money to pay for one, you can buy one, yeah. But if you're trying to solo this, no, it won't work. You need a crew of 7 people to really get the most out of that ship. And if you've got that, it is an amazing experience. But solo, not so much. There is with this patch especially, with the emphasis now being on multi-crewing ships, there is definitely less opportunity for a solo player to take down some of the bigger targets. I was having a discussion with Dark Mortis, who anyone who's watched my videos will know as Morty in the videos earlier on today. And we were actually having not an argument, but certainly a debate over the changes. Now, I really like the changes. I like the fact that the difficulty has increased. There are more limits on the ships. The AI has been improved. Now, Morty was arguing that he liked being able to solo hammerheads in under a minute in his Vanguard, and you can still solo a hammerhead in a Vanguard. It'll take you a bit longer, and you'll have to put up more of a fight to do it. But I think that what you mentioned a minute ago, Roy, about the large ships being more difficult, about multi-crew being essential, there is a mindset that Elite Dangerous players have, maybe, where everything should be soloable by you alone. And withdrawing from, like if I'm in a situation where I'm fighting an arrow and then a hammerhead jumps in, my mindset is, if I'm in my hook, for example, with the current build, my mindset is, this is not a fight that I want to be taking on. I'm going to duck out. I'm going to jump away.
Yep.
Morty's mindset is not like that. Morty's mindset was, I want to take on whatever is in front of me. And I think that a lot of Elite Dangerous players, for example, will be of that mindset, because in Elite Dangerous, everything is soloable. Every ship is essentially a one-person ship. Like, multi-crew isn't really a thing in Elite Dangerous. Not in the way it is in Star Citizen. But CIG wants to promote multi-crew, and I think that's the right direction with this game. I think that if you have those experiences in a ship, like me and Tweaked had last night, 3 of us on a Caterpillar, so we had the pilot with the 2 gunners. The coordination and the teamwork you get from doing that in this game, with this patch in particular, is just amazing. It trumps any wing situation. It trumps any situation where there's 3 players, 3 ships. the coordination you need to run a big ship is worth. If you're not a social person, there are plenty of communities out there where you don't need to be particularly social. You just need to have a practical mind on fulfilling your role within the ship, and you don't even need to spend a lot of money. If you've got that starter pack, you've got your Aurora, you've got your Mustang, you can join communities where someone will have a hammerhead, someone will have a Carrack, and they need help crewing it. And I tell you now, you may think that a side turret on one of these ships is not the star role, but you will get some significant gameplay from being in that turret. You will land a significant amount of shots on target. You will see plenty of ships explode under your fire by fulfilling that role. Griff, I know you've got some thoughts on this as well.
No, I think that you hit on something that I think a lot of people, not just elite players, I don't think it's just elite players that have that sentiment. I think that the idea of cooperative play at that level is something else that has been taken away from gamers, and we've forgotten what it's like to actually coordinate at that level, because so many games do allow you to solo through. And then when we do run into something that we can't solo, we kind of, grit our teeth and stomp our feet, right? Because we've been used to being able to do that. Even people who've been playing Star Citizen, because the game is constantly evolving, we get used to something being a certain way. And when, for example, in the earlier days with dogfighting, the dogfighting was almost more like jousting. We were flying at excessive speeds. You blurred past the next person. There was no real being able to target people. You had to do a lot of decoupling, things of that nature. But Chris eventually let people know that he wants us to do close quarter combat. He wants us to not just fire at a ship, but that you actually can target the shields, or you could target the engines, or you can target the quantum drive. And in order to do that, you have to have piloting skills to get in close to a ship. And so he's pushing us to see gaming a little differently. And I know for some people it seems to be a bit much, but the more, as you said, the more you do it, the more it starts to make sense. I've seen people in an Aurora, right, one of the most inexpensive ships in the game, take on people in a Hornet and kill them because they've learned the skills of fighting in the game. Even though the Hornet costs more money, the Aurora is minimal, but that person has taken the time out to learn the mechanics of the game and defeat someone flying in a ship that, in both real money and game money, costs a lot more. At the same time, I can't take an Aurora and roll up on somebody in a Perseus and say, I'm going to take this ship out. No way. Like you said, I'm going to turn my quantum drive on and leave and go get some help. So I think that we have to understand that the game is being designed that way. You wouldn't do that in real life. You wouldn't take on an aircraft carrier in your your speedboat. So, I think that there is a mindset thing of understanding that, and not to mention, not to be funny, but the person that paid 16 million in credits for their ship is not going to be taken out by the person who paid 4 million in their ship. You know what I mean? There's an imbalance there. So I know that there may be that, that slobbering to take out the next big whale, the Moby Dick, but I'm sorry, Moby Dick's going to win, in the long run.
I think that on that note, that, like you said then, I think that if you think about space battles in cinema, in how they would intrinsically play out, you would have the large capital ships going after each other. You'd have the fighters taking each other on. A group of fighters, maybe. Plucky fighters could go and take on one of those large hammerhead ships and things. But I like the current I feel like it was too easy to take out these ships in the previous build. And actually, just very quickly before we move on, what you mentioned about teamwork. When me and Tweaked and Stick, who was our pilot for the night, were in the Caterpillar last night, I was having to relate to him as we were engaging a hammerhead that, like, for example, the front shield's down. You need to face right. You need to get that the right side shield facing off that way. Now the right side's down. Let's face the left that way. The teamwork involved was amazing. Yeah, really, really amazing.
Absolutely.
Wolf, I think you have something to add to this as well.
I haven't played a whole lot in Star Citizen. I've fired it up. I've had some hardware issues. I'm working through them. I have some stuff on order to make that happen. The thing that I'm getting the hang up with 314 is the most fun I had in Elite Dangerous was when, as a group, we would play together and we would do something, be it a CZ, be it just screw around at a base, do whatever. The fact that in Star Citizen, they're making it, I'm not going to say nearly essential, but highly sought after for some parts of the gameplay to have a group of people to play with, to have a group that's going to work together cohesively to man the ship, to do a specific thing in their own parts and as part of the whole. I see this getting protracted out to something bigger where when we can have multiples of these multi-crew ships in and they're engaging each other and you have the ships fully filled with all their slots and then you have fighters flying around to do their stuff, that's going to be some amazing gameplay.
Absolutely. I want to hop in with a quick observation just to clarify, because I know Wolf didn't mean it, but it could be heard. If you don't know what he's talking about, you could maybe hear what he said and think that he said, well, you kind of need a group to play Star Citizen. You absolutely don't. You can play by yourself any day of the week for as long as you like in the right ship. If you are wanting to play by yourself, hop in a single-seater ship and go and have fun in the verse. If you want to drive an aircraft carrier, for example, that is the kind of thing that you need, for in real life, one guy, no matter how good he is, cannot drive an aircraft carrier. You need thousands of people to work that damn thing. In Star Citizen, if you want to fly a Javelin or a Hammerhead, you need to have a group, because otherwise you're that asshole who's trying to drive a fleet carrier, an aircraft carrier by yourself, or a submarine, or a USS destroyer. You can't. You need a group for that. But that does not stop you from saying, oh, I want to log in. Oh, all my friends are not playing today. All right, cool. Go hop in a fighter, a single fighter, and go and have fun. So we got... Let's see. First up was FastCart, and then Katie, and then Tweet. Go for it with your observations. FastCart?
Yeah, I just want to say that 6 to 18 month estimate you gave earlier, that's been said by backers since about 2014. They're expecting the game in 2016.
But
we're still in the first 90% of the game development, and we know that the first 90%. The last 10% takes as long as the first 90%. So don't expect this game to be out until.
No.
I'm joking.
Just to clarify, though, I wasn't saying the game will be done by then. I'm saying it's moving to the phase of being more enjoyable as a playable. It's less tech demo and more actual like alpha, alpha/beta game. Katie?
I wasn't done. The thing about I don't think people should blame Chris Roberts for development taking so long. I think it should be on the backers because we're the ones who said go ahead and make the game bigger, make the game better. So
True.
The people who to try to blame Chris Roberts for this, I think they're mistaken. But to your point about the stuff getting done, I do agree with you. Because there's a Tony G interview. You talk about Tony G from 2014. There's one a few months back where he said that ICAST was largely complete.
Yep.
So good stuff are coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that one from like a month and a half ago, that it was in May, that was like a 48-minute video. That was incredible, and we've highlighted it on the show. Good stuff. Katie, and then Tweak's got his observations.
Before I get onto my point, I just want to add to what FastCart just said, that I think that as well, in terms of the development timeline, you've got to think that a lot of that early progress would have been setting up the underlying tech that lets us do these amazing things now. You've got to build that tech before you can do the cool, impressive stuff that we see now. You've got to build that tech, and that's a slow process. And they invested in that early, and that's why we're seeing such good results right now. I just wanted to touch on the argument about the multi-crew or an organization being essential. I think that there's a misunderstanding here, which is that there were like in real life, like you mentioned, that there are different levels of engaging targets. Like, so if you're a solo player you let's say I'm going to use my favorite ship, which is the Anvil Hawk. Now the Anvil Hawk in the current patch, no problem against other fighters, even something bigger than it, even something like a Vanguard, you can take those on, because they are also fast-moving combat ships that don't have the kind of the reserve of shield and hull something much larger has. Something like the Hammerhead, you can take one on, sure. You're going to have a real hard time solo doing that. You're going to have a real hard time. You can go back and repair, or if you've got support from other ships, like during a big event, like the big events, like Ninetales, for example, you'll have a lot of friendly support to take those targets on. But, like in real life, there is an appropriate level of ship-to-ship combat that you should be aiming for. Like, if you're flying something very small, you're going to want to take on targets that are of a similar size to you, or if you're going to take on something bigger, you should do so expecting difficulty. Now, the larger warships, like the Hammerhead, for example, the more appropriate ship to take them on is another large ship, just like in real life. And I think that CIG are gearing the development of the game, the direction the game is going in that direction, where it makes there is a logic behind it, where if you're going to take on a very large ship, you should be fielding a very large ship.
Absolutely. We're going to pass to Tweak because we got to keep things moving, but I'm going to say this, Katie. It's not that the Cuddy Black and I are angry with you. We're just so disappointed. Anvil Hawk? Go, Tweak.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely the right way to go. And I had an argument, a debate with some of my friends earlier today about this, that they wanted the combat from the last patch as opposed to this one. And my argument was they're facilitating multiplayer gameplay. And in Elite Dangerous, and a stat came out, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, that the vast majority of Elite Dangerous players play solo. They play by themselves. And I feel like to each their own, but I really feel like that's a disservice, because Elite Dangerous was never more fun than when I was in a wing with people, whether we were working CZs or we were going bug hunting or we were group mining together. It was always so much more fun with people. But we could not do in Elite what CIG is trying to get us to do, where if I'm in my Cuddy Black and I get attacked by a pirate, I'm way better off if I've got a buddy that can hop in my turret and give me some cover fire. It's just, it's what it should be. It's cool. And it's going towards the direction of when we were in that Caterpillar last night and all the warning lights were flashing and the sparks were flying and the smoke was everywhere. Eventually there's going to be gameplay where somebody has to fix that stuff so we can make it to the station and such. It's going to be beneficial to have friends. If you want to play alone, there are game loops to do. You can go mining, you can go exploring, you can do these different things by yourself. But I implore everybody, it is so much more fun with friends, and people are so friendly. The community is every bit as helpful and great as the Elite community was or is. And it's just, you can easily get with people. There's orgs to have, there's Discord, there's so many ways to get with people and say, hey, I need go into the system chat, the general chat, and just say, hey, anybody got a ship that needs a turret gunner, and somebody's going to invite you to come and help them out. It's an amazing experience, and I think it's absolutely the right way to go.
But Tweaked, I was going to go to Tashi Station and pick up power converters. Shut the hell up, get in the fucking turret, and drink your blue milk, kid. Okay. Roy, you had a observation, and then we're going to pass to DK for his thoughts on this.
So in talking about 3.5 as the survivability patch, you mentioned some people are going to be focused on the medical. Where I go with it is the whole thing about physicalized inventory. I think that's going to drive, it's going to drive all kinds of things, but in specific, a lot of specialization. You think about how now if you're in an FPS crew and you're going to go do a mission, everybody's got everything. Everybody's got 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 of everything. Now you're going to have the guy with the heavy weapon, the guy with the light armor, the person with the supplies. You might even have people running logistics runs if you're taking a lot of time to do a mission. I'm just excited for that. That it's going to, I think, open up a lot of avenues for support roles. and specialization.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. DK, you're up. Your thoughts.
You know what? I just want to jump on to what you just said there, Roy. And I was actually just writing this down. Is that your roles and the ships that you fly become more defined now, and you become more of what your role is. So, say if I'm a logistics person, I like passenger flights. I like to do that in Elite, and I like cargo running. So those are my roles. Those are the things I'm into. So my ships are going to be that part of that role, and be they multi-crew with a couple other people who are also part of that role, and we're running an operation or something like that. That's what makes that ship. If I'm going to do it by myself, I'll find my little small cargo ship and then run a couple little FedEx runs, to just for a quick buck here or there. But then in addition to like the physicalized inventory you were just talking about, Roy, what I'm going to bring along with me is also going to be a part of that role. Am I going to need a heavy weaponry with me when I'm going on making a cargo run or running passengers, to another star system? Probably not. But am I going to have, a decent flight suit, an undersuit and a nice helmet that, that at least looks, that I haven't been in a war? Yeah, I'll probably need to have something and need to make sure that's on board my ship. That'll go for all the different roles that are out there. But on general, I kind of want to just real quick just point on general multi-crew. Katie, you mentioned that it's encouraging a multi-crew. It's encouraging you to participate with friends. You can do things on your own solo. But if you really want to be in that big ship, like a hammerhead, and fly that around with you, and pilot a hammerhead. You can pilot a hammerhead, but you best to bring at least 5 or 6 of your friends along with you and pilot your hammerhead. That way you can pilot the hammerhead. Or if somebody in your group has a hammerhead, ask to be the pilot. And then everybody else can be in the turrets. We do that all the time with our org. And it just makes it more fun. And I don't have to have a hammerhead if I don't need to buy it in game or in real life. Somebody else has one I can play with. Okay,
Absolutely. Okay, so Griff and FastCart, you both hopped in earlier with statements, but I just want to make sure, do you guys have anything else to add specifically onto this? I don't want to not call on you specifically, and if not, then we'll move on because we got lots to get to still.
I just want to say that I disagree with Dark Knight because I'm going to have 5 accounts and I'm going to multi-box Star Citizen. I'm going to fly that big ship by myself. Okay?
Oh, watch out. We got an Eve player over here.
Hey, I do play Eve, and that's what I did in Eve, but I'm not going to do that in Star Citizen. That's way too much work.
Oh, hell yeah.
Godspeed, good sir.
Griff?
No, nothing that I really want to share other than the fact that I do agree with you, Kai, that I think, it's always, the thing that people want to say is, oh, this year is going to be the year. But I do think that for those of us who've been following development, we're seeing how things are coming together. And I do believe that over the next few patches for this year and then going into next year, the CIG is going to make some huge strides. And I think that people are going to be very happy. I know that you've done this before, but I do want to make sure that we're distinguishing the difference between Star Citizen, the universe, and Squadron 42.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes the expectations are there between the two, between the standalone game and the living universe. So, when we talk about, and I think that's what you've been referring to when we start talking about the movement of development, we're really talking about what we're going to see happening with the Star Citizen universe. Squadron 42, though, down, I think just as much, right around, not much further as far as I'm concerned.
I'm legitimately thinking next Christmas, not this Christmas, not 2021 Christmas, but I'm thinking 2022 Christmas.
Yeah,
that's just a guess, and also it could just as easily get pushed to next summer and still be kind of within the window of what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Safe bet.